Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Next Issue podcast. I panicked and I just hit whatever the first button was.
Hey, take it easy,
Take
sweetheart.
it easy,
Take
sweetheart.
it easy.
Well,
Hey.
thanks everybody for joining us on our show. Today, we will determine if we believe a man can fly for our main topic.
If you throw him
We'll
hard
be going
enough,
over the
yes.
1978 American classic, Superman, the movie.
Oh.
Yeah. And boy, I have I got a lot of very notes and interesting questions.
Yeah, same.
But before that, we do have a little bit of sad news from this week. We have a few people that unfortunately have passed away. So we will talk about that. We'll start a little bit with Jim Shooter, longtime editor-in-chief at Marvel, writer. He worked on comics for a long time. And I'm talking, like, I read that he started writing the Legion of Superheroes at 13.
Yeah, he was like a Wunderkind in the field. So
yeah.
Can you imagine, like, back in the day, like, you know, we're talking 60s, whatever. Like, you're literally just a kid. I mean, this is like how a lot of our, like, they just started writing letters into the fan page. So Daniel, you should be next to get a writing.
Yeah, that is true.
They were literally just writing the letters page and then being like hyper specific about stuff. And the editors were like, come in, like, we need you to come in and write for us. You obviously know what you're talking about. But you can find all those, like, there's like all these stories about like how, you know, I can't think of, like, Kurt Busiek used to write into like the letters page, and like maybe Mark Waid, and like all of them like used to just continuously write into these letters pages. And
how many
13-year-old Shooter got a job out of it, you know?
Yeah, how many kids like Shooter got jobs professionally in comics because some exasperated editor was like, "Oh, you think you can fucking do it? All right, come do it," you know? And
yeah,
you want to do this
and
job?
He was like,
yeah,
he was living in Connecticut or something. Like, he was living not in New York.
You're
so
right.
They offered him the job. He's like, "Well, I got to take the train in and figure it out how to work around school and stuff." And he's figuring this out on his own. They have no idea. They think they're talking to some 20-something-year-old guy. And like when he shows up, and he was always tall, so I guess they thought he was like a bit older.
Yeah.
Found out.
This is back in the day where they just cut you a check.
Right.
There were no child labor laws.
Right. So
or taxes, apparently. I don't know, honestly. But yeah, I feel like he's such a divisive figure in comics history. I'm kind of interested in, I mean, it's sad that he passed, but I'm interested now in the inevitable kind of historical reevaluation of him that's going to happen, you know? I mean, God, just I should have gone back and refound them. I vaguely remember there were just a litany of very mean editorials in the Comics Journal from like the mid 80s onward, just lambasting Jim Shooter is like the death knell of the industry kind of stuff. So it's going to be intriguing to see kind of what happens.
Yeah. But
I mean, he definitely led the way in licensing and like just production of books for production of books' sake, you know, and some
Secret
good stuff
Wars.
came out of it. Yeah, like in spite of what Secret Wars was, like, I guess some good things came out of it. You know, we got the Venom suit and whatnot. So like stuff happened. It just wasn't always for like he really focused in on like how can we capitalize on what we do. You know, like let's up the production.
It's a shame that he won't get to see the Secret Wars movie, you know, come to life.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know how much I don't know how much these creators go back and actually watch the movies, but you know, I thought that would have been pretty cool. I'm looking at some of the headlines and just like, you know, Jim Shooter, the editor who saved the comics industry, so like definitely had a storied career. And then you have other pages like Bleeding Cool, Jim Shooter and his rule about roller skates in comics, and Jim Shooter and his rule about gay people in comics. And I'm like, I don't want to click on either one of those articles because I think it's going to be nonsense regardless of what that, you know.
Well, I mean, there was some not great stuff. I feel like there were there's a very infamous Hulk issue that he wrote that deals with homosexuality that ages like curdled milk.
Yeah.
It just there are some things that came through that are definitely not great. I think
he was anti Todd McFarlane big Spider-Man eyes.
Yes, exactly. I do also think to me at least, I mean, when you think about the number of times he attempted to create bespoke universes, right? So I believe he was still in charge when New Universe was conceived and rolled out.
Yeah.
He's, of course, the driving force behind Valiant.
I know.
Which was another attempt to capitalize on old brands and, commercialize them. I mean, there are some really big swings that he took.
Crazy because, I mean, Valiant's about to relaunch the universe at IDW. Like, it's kind of like an imprint of IDW now. So
I didn't know.
Very interesting. But yeah, I remember, I think maybe 2019, he was here in Irving and I got a chance to meet him. He did a little panel.
Oh, cool.
So
that's awesome.
But yeah, it's a shame. But also,
how much taller did you? I think you took a picture with him, didn't you?
I did not. Unfortunately, I didn't. I couldn't find one.
Life?
If I did, I couldn't find one.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
He was a giant. He was a giant man. So
yeah.
All right. Also, in more unfortunate news, actor Julian McMahon passed away. Yeah. Probably more known, at least in this space, in this channel, for portraying Dr. Doom in the first two Fantastic Four films from Fox. Also very prevalent in Nip Tuck, the FX series, which a lot of the cast from that show, I think a lot of FX TV people ended up in the Fox movie, which makes sense because it's all like the same kind of company and studio. So
they just have one casting director that walks around their properties. They're like,
yeah, for sure. Like,
you'd make a great Dr. Doom.
What are you doing tomorrow for 3 weeks? Or Now, Josh, you had something pretty interesting to say when we did that when we found out about that on the Discord. And let me pull up. It was nothing bad. Don't worry. We're not gonna. Yeah, I'm here to cancel Josh.
I just assumed.
The only canonical comic book accurate Doctor Doom yet on screen in live action. Since the Corman film was never technically released.
So basically, until we get RDJ, Julian McMahon was it. I'm not saying he was a good Doctor Doom. I just want to go on record, but
I think he was, out of the things that were wrong with those films, him was not the problem.
Like, I agree.
He was not at the top of the list.
And I feel like he very clearly, like, he had all the makings and the potential to be a great Doctor Doom. He was not served by the script or the direction.
Yeah, I love the idea of the Doctor Doom that thinks that he's that he's malformed, but it's really like a very small imperfection on his face. Like that's kind of how his character started.
Yeah.
I think the weirdest part of his portrayal of Doom, or I guess not his portrayal, but like that adaptation of Doom was that fact that I think changed that, like they wanted to make it seem like he was developing his own metal skin, kind of like the Thing, but with metal, right, instead. But I thought he was pretty menacing and he was pretty great, and it was good to see him come back in the second film. Like it was kind of a curveball because like is the big bad Galactus or the Silver Surfer or and then Doom kind of shows up and takes over the show.
The United States Army.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's unfortunate. Did you guys ever watch Nip Tuck? There was another show that he's also pretty well known.
I mean, I probably caught like bits of it here and there, but I never watched a lot of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I never.
Yeah. So, all right. So yeah, unfortunate passing of two people. I also think the actor who played Admiral Piet in the Star Wars films, it's always a headline whenever a Star Wars actor from the original films passes away, regardless of how big or small the role was, just because of how iconic those films are. So,
well, and Michael Madsen passed away as well.
Right, from Reservoir Dog. I'm not Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the FX show Reservation Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
I love his video games though. Madsen 24, Madsen 25. Like they're all so good. Like
I think you're thinking of the wrong John Madsen.
Is those the ones where you throw a severed head into a goal?
Yeah.
He was also great in Kill Bill. I think that's probably the thing I remember him from the most.
Yeah.
So unfortunate passings away once again. So
we need to start reading baby announcements whenever we have death announcements, and we're like also born this week.
Also born. That's good.
I wish. I mean, I looked. I tried to find some more lighthearted news for this quick hit segment. Unfortunately, I didn't. But what I did do is to bring a little bit of levity before we and kind of segue into our discussion of Superman 1978. I'm gonna have you guys tell me. We're gonna do a tale of the tape, and then we're gonna just figure out which movie is gonna take the summer box office between Superman versus the Fantastic Four, based on this random five criteria that I've put together.
Nice.
So Josh, you will cast your vote, and if there's a tie, then I'll break the tie.
Okay.
But first of all, on the head-to-head, based on the trailers, which movie are you most excited for? I guess that's the real question. Based on these 5 categories, which movie are you most excited for? So when it comes to the trailers, I'll throw it to you, Jeff. Are you more excited for Superman, Fantastic Four?
I'm more excited for Superman based on the trailers alone. Just because I love that part where you can hear under the groundswell of the crowd like chanting Superman's name, and then the music swell. Like whoever's cutting together those trailers knows what they're doing, because it gives you, for an older fan who misses your heroic, everybody loves Superman storylines and whatever, like it gives you that kind of hope where you're like, you hear the people go Superman, you see a little kid holding on to the flag, and then Superman's going to show up. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm all for it. Whereas the Fantastic Four trailer, everybody already is behind the Fantastic Four, and now they're all afraid that the Fantastic Four is not going to be able to rescue them from this giant thing. And also, it's part of a bigger universe, and they come careening into the Marvel 616 universe at the end of Thunderbolt. So you're like, do things go well? So in my head, the Fantastic Four is part of that bigger Marvel universe thing. It's going to get its own story, but it's going to tether into whatever comes next. Superman's going to be the same, but Superman being its own first movie, and even though there's a bajillion characters that will belong to that universe, I just feel like it's going to be its own, like it will still be its own story mostly, just because I feel like James Gunn is planned for that, Yeah.
All right, Josh, how about you?
Based on the very first trailers that came out for both of them, I had the exact opposite view of Jeff. And the reason why is because I feel like both trailers do a good job of immediately inverting our expectations, right? Think about it. The very first Superman trailer begins with him falling from the sky into the snow bloodied.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is happening here, right? And then the FF trailer, think about how much the films have dealt with, particularly with Ben, them not being accepted. And that trailer begins with how beloved they are, right? So I kind of went into it with the opposite effect. So for me, I mean, it comes as no surprise, I'm super hyped for FF. I do think my final take at the end will surprise everyone, but that's where I stand currently.
For the tiebreaker, I think I'm gonna have to go with Superman, because it feels like, even though it's a new beginning, it feels like we're gonna get thrown in the middle of a world that's kind of been ongoing, and I think that's very exciting. Also, as much as I love Herbie, like Crypto just looks adorable, and that should have been one of the categories: Crypto versus Herbie.
Crypto versus Herbie.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna barely edging out, Superman. So Superman takes the trailer category. I'm gonna start with this one with you, Josh, because I think I know what you're gonna say. So for the music that we've heard so far, Fantastic Four or Superman?
I am very impressed with Michael Giacchino's introductory score to FF. So I'm going to go with that, but I feel like I honestly haven't heard any of the official score yet from the new Superman. But if it leans into the original score, it may take the cake.
I thought it was interesting. And we'll talk about the original score, I'm sure, when we get to the main film. But yeah, that's why I picked that category, because we really have only heard one. We've heard the updated version of the Superman theme with the electric guitar and the Superman trailers, and then Fantastic Four, we've only heard that one song from Michael Giacchino. So, Jeff, what about you? Where are you leaning on that one?
Right now, I'm leaning towards the Michael Giacchino Fantastic Four. It's stuck in your head. Not that the Superman, the original John Williams Superman stuff is iconic.
Yeah.
But I can't give him that, because it's not the John Williams score. It's going to be like they're riffing off the John Williams score.
Right.
So just alone, I'm just like, that every time I hear the crowd go Fantastic Four, I'm just like, it's going to be stuck in my head for 5 days. Like,
yeah.
I agree. I feel like Michael Giacchino has done with that theme the same, like capture the essence of Superman the way that the Superman original theme captured that, and I think that's quite an accomplishment.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
All right, next category. We'll start with Jeff. What about the cast? Which cast has you more excited for that movie?
I'm certainly more familiar with the Fantastic Four cast. I guess I'm more familiar. It's all the like incendiary, like the other characters.
Yeah.
From Superman, where I'm just like, I know that one guy from Jimmy Olsen from Righteous
That's why I
Gemstones,
picked this Superman
like,
so you can see the little pictures of everyone else.
Yeah, but it's basically David Cornsweet. I've seen him in the Twisters movie, So we're basically down to Rachel Brosnahan and Lex Luthor, who has been in every. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's been in
Nicholas Hoult.
Kid actor. Yeah, Nicholas Hoult. Like you've seen him in everything, and he's great. But I feel just because I'm more familiar with the Fantastic Four cast, the Fantastic Four.
All right, Josh, how about you?
Oh God, this one's hard. I
want to make it too easy.
I'm honestly going to go with Superman on this one because as great as I feel like the casting is in both films all around, I have very, very high hopes for, I can never say her name right. Brosnahan.
Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah. Her as Lois, and also, of course, I'm here for Fillion as as Guy Gardner. And I heard the actor that is playing Metamorpho in a podcast, and and I know he has played mainly bad guys like Zaz and others, but I'm really interested to see him play Metamorpho as well. So again, this is a tight one because I feel like every actor I've seen in FF just looks amazing. But I'm going to go with Superman.
I agree. I think that's it's definitely tougher to pick, but just from what I've seen, also Superman for me takes just a little bit more of the edge. But I think this next category is going to be
I'll be your friend, Pedro Pascal.
The curveball.
I'll hang out with
on
you.
The next one here, and let me show you guys because I'm
so glad you have photos because I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know how present you are with these. So let me see. We have here's a smattering of. How do I? Oh, let me remove it. There we go. This is a smattering of the Superman buckets.
Good Lord!
I know. Watch out, wallet.
How many of these
are so many? I do like the dog bowl. That's cute.
The dog bowls are my favorite ones.
Yeah,
because I'm like that makes sense.
Here we have some Fantastic Four stuff. There's a few more.
Where do you get these? I just go to Alamo, so they never have popcorn buckets.
No, Alamo has what I think is gonna be my favorite Superman bucket. But yeah, these like Regal has a bunch, and AMC and Cinemark. So yeah, they're all over the place. I was trying to see if we have. I think these are the big ones for Fantastic Four. I think so. So based on that, and I know you're just forming an opinion because you probably hadn't seen a lot of these, but which way are you leaning on buckets? We'll start with Josh on this one.
I mean, I know it's $80, but that Galactus bucket is killer. I fucking want that bucket, and then I just want to put it on a shelf over here and have Galactus stare at me when I'm doing everything all day long. So I'm going to go with the FF one, although the dog bowl is a very close second.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I feel like Superman, the people that are doing the Superman buckets are just throwing as many as they can at you. There are so many there.
Yeah.
The Fantastic Four one is like, no, we got Galactus. It's $80, but it's a Galactus head. So you choose. I'm gonna go with the Galactus head because I'm never gonna buy it, but it's so cool. Like it is the also the thing that bugged me about the Superman one. There's one where Superman is outside like. It's like a miniaturized popcorn machine. It looks like bucket. I'm like, why didn't you make that a phone booth? Like,
right.
The same shape. It literally could have been a phone booth, and it would have made more sense for Superman.
Why would you put popcorn in a phone booth?
But
well,
it's a Superman thing. Why would you put popcorn in Galactus's head?
And Jeff, also, the youth don't know what phone booths are. Which I do love. We'll come back around to it. That is one of my favorite bits from 78 Superman is the phone booth.
Yeah.
So,
all right. And then final question, final category. The direct. Oh, I guess so. You guys were both Fantastic Four. Yeah. I was also going to pick Fantastic Four for the buckets. That Galactus thing.
It looks amazing.
It's got handles like whatever you need on a popcorn bucket. Yeah. And then the last one here to break the tie, because I think we're 2-2 in the categories, which worked out perfectly. The director, we have James Gunn directing Superman. We have Matt Shakman directing the Fantastic Four First Steps. Now, I think we are probably a little bit more familiar with James Gunn, but Matt Shakman, if you're not familiar with that, pulling up some other movies he's directed. Actually, he worked on WandaVision. It looks like he's a very prolific TV director.
Yeah, he did a lot of Sunny.
He worked on The Boys, Succession, Monarch, the Godzilla show on Apple TV, Game of Thrones, Always Sunny.
Always Sunny.
So yeah, I think this looks like it's his first like actual big screen thing.
Film.
Yeah. So we'll start with Jeff on this one. James Gunn or Matt Shakman?
I mean, James Gunn certainly has a much bigger list under his belt of more of helming movies and stuff. I feel like James Gunn's got to walk away with this one.
Yeah.
But listening to Matt Shakman's credits, I'm like, well, he might be the new Russo brothers. So
nice. He's gonna split himself into two. All right, Josh.
I am also going with Shakman, and the reason. Oh wait, didn't Jeff go? Did you pick Gunn or Shakman?
I went James Gunn. I was praising Shakman because if he's got a lot of TV credits.
Gotcha. All right, I am going Shakman, and the reason why is because we know James Gunn can deliver, but Shakman, I think, went all out in this movie from the design to the setting to just being handed a property that so many others have failed to deliver on, and I think he's going to do it. And so I'm going for Shakman on this one. I love James Gunn, don't get me wrong, but we know James Gunn. Shakman is the wild card here.
Yeah, and so I guess I got to break the tie and decide this whole game, which worked out great. How this is? We didn't plan this. I didn't even tell the guys that we were doing this before the show. So, I think I have to go James Gunn, just because of the pedigree behind it. No pun intended on the crypto of it all. But yeah, I mean I've heard him talk about. I've been watching a lot of interviews with James Gunn recently. I feel like this is it. He's putting everything on the line on this one. Whereas Shakman can always, if the Fantastic Four doesn't succeed, he has a safety net of like, oh yeah, we have 2 Avengers movies coming out next year, so it's no big deal, right?
We'll just hand off these characters to be included in the Russo brothers Avengers.
Right. That being said, I'm very excited for Fantastic Four. So I can't believe we are within a month of both of these movies coming out in theaters. So there you have it.
Within a week of one of them.
Yeah, by the numbers, we have Superman is our most anticipated film based on these 5 categories and nothing else. So there you have it. All right.
I do think they are both very important to their prospective studios.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Marvel has been stumbling.
I know the Fantastic Four aren't really right now in the comics the centerpiece of the universe, but at some point they were. I mean, the first family of Marvel. They are.
Yeah.
They are a cornerstone in one of those
properties. And it's been over a decade, and we still haven't gotten them into the MCU. So, yeah.
And the last film, which was about 10 years ago, I think, was a big whiff.
Oh, so fucking awful. Just awful. I hate that movie so much.
Well, speaking of movies,
my favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie. It feels like a real go to the theater film movie that you kind of the reason why you go to watch something on the big screen.
There's a new Marvel out that's supposed to be nuts. We should go see that.
No, Tim, we're not going to go see a Marvel. We're going to go see a movie that feels like a movie, like Harry Styles was describing. Today, we're going to be talking about the classic Superman 1978. Superman, the movie, 1978. I was scrolling down on our document, and we have 2 main points each that we want to cover. And then Josh and I have a laundry list of other things that I guess we wanted to mention. And I looked at Josh's list. Like, I feel like he could have had his own stream and gone for 3 hours.
I literally was just typing stuff in as I was watching it.
That's so funny. I was doing the same thing though.
All right, good.
At some point, the movie did grab me in, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna stop taking notes." And
no, I just kept going.
Before we start,
holy cow! Just not reading Josh's.
You see it.
Before we start, I do want to mention I watched this on HBO Max. And for some reason, the version that they have is the Turner Classic Movies screening of it.
So weird. Like, how is it different?
It starts
an introduction.
It starts with an intro from the Turner Classic Movies guy.
Okay.
I don't remember his name because I think they have different people do it too. I saw.
They did, yeah. One died, I think. So they got.
And then it has like a little video of like the legacy of Superman. It's like a very short 2-3 minute thing. Jeff, do you remember what I'm talking about?
So the movie starts weird because the movie starts with like, this is a comic book.
I love it.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
So it starts with the curtains open. I always forget this is how it starts. It starts with the curtains opening up, and it's like the Daily Planet, and then we get into the movie, which makes me think that when they were making the movie, they were like, we got to tell these people that Superman's a comic book first.
Okay,
so they understand what's going on.
But they're in a movie theater, which is it's like, here's a screen, you're looking at a comic page, and it's like
that's part of the film.
That's part of the film.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was something that Turner Classic Movies added to give people context of the film. Oh, that's
that's how the movie begins, which is why I was wondering, is it I think it may be the only comic book movie that begins by acknowledging this is a comic book.
Which is interesting because you don't see DC Comics anywhere on the credits. I think at some point you see characters from DC Comics, but
it does. But you get the 70s Warner Brothers film logo,
and in keeping with the theme of how this movie starts, I'm delaying the actual beginning of our conversation because there are like 4 minutes of credits zooming in past your screen before we even get to the movie.
Yeah.
Which was really funny.
Thank God there's like the John Williams fanfare, because otherwise that would be just boring as shit, So
and I was thinking, like, man, I guess that was kind of the beauty of not being inundated by content back in the 70s, that you were like, yeah, I'm going to the movies and we're gonna spend all afternoon there and we're gonna have a good time. and I'm just gonna watch whatever they put in front of me. When Mario Puzo's name came out, I was like, this is the Godfather, dude. I forgot that he was a part. He's the one that wrote this.
Yeah.
So
I also love how, and I think this is one of my main points, but I tried to research what the average length of a film was in 1978, because this movie is 2.5 hours long. And the thing I love about this movie is it never feels rushed. And I don't mean that in a way like it feels long or, the pacing is off. It's not. It just, they don't rush anything. Yeah. And I love that, because I could see a world in which executives are like, we've just got to jam pack all this shit. And Donner's like, no, we're going to have breathing moments. We're going to have sequences of just like them staring off in the distance, or characters like pausing when talking. I mean, it feels really like they really thought about how do we structure this film so that it works, but it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel like it has any unnecessary cruff, I guess. So
yeah, I agree. The pacing is very well done. The structure of it is like you could almost insert chapter cards like the Snyder Cut did, to say like this is our first chapter.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I remember when Men of Steel came out, people were complaining that we spent so much time in Krypton, and I'm like, did you even watch the 78 Superman film?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's very similar. Obviously, Snyder's is a lot more violent. Well, I don't know. This one's pretty kind of violent.
There's a lot of
in a different
dead
way.
people in this one.
Here's the thing I realized. I had this realization when watching 78 and thinking back on Man of Steel. Snyder takes the basic
structure, I think.
Armature, the structure of Superman 1 and what would have been Donner's 2, in the same way that Abrams took the structure of episode 4 to make episode 7, right? And I mean, Snyder's Man of Steel follows this movie almost beat by beat. I mean, it's identical practically. So
one of the things I was thinking
did he write Man of Steel?
What's that?
Did he write Man of Steel?
No, it was Goyer.
It was Goyer, I think.
Yeah, because I thought he was a director for hire on Man of Steel. He hadn't gotten the DC gig yet.
Let's see. Wait, hang on.
I will say, I have penciled in a Man of Steel episode later on this summer, I think.
Interesting.
Because I think we need to, especially now, we'll have the new Superman film, right? We'll have a lot more context. So, all right, I think Josh, that was kind of your first point. So we'll just go into Jeff, because I only wrote 2 points down because that was my instructions on the paper. But I like you guys both were very easily. Oh, we can add a third one here when you push 3 in the keyboard.
You said one. Feel free to add a brief honorable mention. That is what the instructions.
I guess
say.
I did. I did write that. All right, Jeff. We'll start with your first point.
So my first point is I love Gene Hackman in this movie. He is so great as Lex Luthor. Consider I don't know if he wanted to play. He definitely didn't want to shave his head, or he didn't want to wear a bald cap, which is why he's wearing wigs the whole time, I guess. I don't know. But he is so funny in this movie, and not even like he's just devious funny. Like he is. He doesn't look anything like Lex Luthor, but he is just. My favorite line in this movie is when he has Superman and he's got the kryptonite in the layer, and he's about to walk away. He's got the map of California where he wants to destroy the San Andreas Fault to whatever his whole land scheme. And he just tells Superman, he goes, "We all have our faults. Mine is in California." And he walks off. And I'm like, that is such an amazing line. That is such a well-written line.
And delivered
Yeah, everything he delivers to Otis is great. Like when Otis brings the bath towel into the water, he's like, "Otis, next time, wait till I'm out of the water," kind of thing. Like,
which is great. Great in this movie. He still puts it on. Like he doesn't even know that he's annoyed by it. He just puts it on and then he says it.
He corrects. You find the problem, you identify it, and then you correct it in the next time. So.
I also like in this that they did not feel like we have to give any backstory to Lex Luthor. He's just there. He's just doing shit, But I do. Oh, sorry,
It
Danny.
was also kind of a thing of the times, probably. Like, if you're a rich person at some sort of level, like you're inherently also kind of already like evil, probably.
Well, and one of the other things I realized, I said this in my litany of notes, is this movie being made in the 70s is almost perfect because it aligns with the original origins of the character, right? If you've ever read the first few original issues of Superman, he is a 1930s era, like, social justice warrior, right?
Yeah.
He's fighting corrupt politicians. He's like, he's fighting corrupt businessmen. And I love how many times are there slights in this movie about how politicians are corrupt, right? Like, it goes back to that as kind of like in origin story, which I love. But I do want to give a shout out real quick. As much as I totally agree with you, Jeff, that Gene Hackman is brilliant as Lex Luthor, I want to give props to the all original character of Miss Tessmacher. She is fucking great in this, and she is the conscience of Luthor. And it's so good. She is fantastic. The actor, the character concept, the writing of her, she's so good.
Yeah, I mean, she's so good that like they eventually brought her into the comics, and she's a very prominent character now. So
Yeah,
I agree. Great performance. I love when she pulls Superman out of the pool, but before she takes off the kryptonite, she kisses him.
yeah.
And he's like, "Why did you kiss me?" He's like, "Because I didn't think you were gonna let me after I took off the kryptonite." Which, Chris, I mean, yeah, I guess this kind of brings me to my first point, which is kind of a combination of two things. We don't even see Christopher Reeves until we're almost an hour into this film.
Yeah.
Like 45 minutes, maybe, I think is insane. But the first time we see Superman, right? Lois is about to fall from the helicopter. He's what's that? Oh,
no. So the first appearance of him is at the end of the whole training sequence at the Fortress of Solitude. He just flies towards the camera.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's really important because our first introduction to Christopher Reeve is as Clark Kent.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely critically important.
Correct.
Great
performance by the young Clark. Like,
yeah, Jeff East. Yeah.
His hair was
So,
interesting because I was like, is this a wig?
he is wearing a wig. I had to look it up. Yeah.
Okay. He feels like maybe he would have blonde hair or maybe light hair.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't want to color it, but he's great. But yeah, the first time we see Superman, like he comes out of the, Clark Kent comes out of Daily Planet. He sees that Lois is hanging from the helicopter. And at this point, like, I don't know which of his powers are canon or not. So like, does but he realizes it's Lois because the hat, right, that's on the floor. But obviously nowadays he could just probably see her with his telescopic vision. And he goes to the phone booth, but it's not a full phone booth.
I love that so much because that felt like modernizing the character for the late 70s, right? So
yeah, but even to today's days, like he wouldn't be able to find the phone booths, but he would be able to find the spinning door.
Yeah,
which is great. I love that he goes around multiple times in the door to change.
Yeah.
And as soon as he comes out and that theme hits and he's flying straight at the camera, like my eyes were swelling.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah,
and you also were like, man, that is one bad outfit that guy says in the movie.
So good too. Yeah. And this movie is a lot funnier than I remember too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great time. But yeah, just as soon as he started flying towards the screen and people were excited to, like, people cheering as he saved Lois, because I feel like if it was the real world and he did that, like, there'd be people that were angry and that he was actually saving someone. I don't know why. Like, I would just feel like that would even be like saving Lois Lane from a falling helicopter would still be divisive in today's climate. I was like,
you're ruining my Instagram live shot.
Everybody would be trying to get it on their phones, and whereas in this movie, everybody's just like, it kind of brought everyone together, right? And of course, like, don't worry, Ms. Lane, I got you. Like, you got me. Who's got you? Like, just perfect. Like, yeah, that whole first sequence of when we see Superman it's a perfect introduction to the character.
I was reading somewhere that originally he was just going to save Lois, and then they had the idea of introducing it as her and the helicopter as basically double jeopardy, which then comes into play at the end when he has to choose between which rocket he's going to stop first, right? So
classic.
It is, as I said in my notes, Superman dealing with the trolley problem. Is he going to save one person or a lot of people?
I mean, and the effects look pretty good. Like for him holding up the helicopter and flying up, like all that stuff.
I love the effects in this movie because when he's like a little baby and they're all trippy, like when the Krypton's blowing up, they do a lot of those really old effects you don't see anymore.
Yeah,
in camera tricks kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of practical effects that are really good here. The only moment that ruined it for me, and maybe this is the one rushed bit, is it is very obviously the town at the end he's saving from flooding is just miniatures, and it's painfully obvious.
Yeah, I think with the 4K upgrades to some of these things, like you catch, because I mean Krypton I think looked pretty good, but that's because that's not like a real thing that we would envision, right? It was just you can just tell it's the set there.
But I love like their outfits in Krypton or like the reflective things, so they shot it with like a reflective light, so it's all weird looking. And then when they do all the flooding
they
had just discovered the reflective tape material, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do all of it."
Yeah. Did that inspire the Tron look several years later? Like, I really wondered if
I would imagine so. Like, somebody had to in the costume. Maybe it was even same people worked on the costume.
That could be. Yeah.
Back then, I feel like it was.
I
all
think this
very,
is being
like,
influenced by Star Wars also. Star Wars
very much. Yeah.
Too, so.
Yeah.
I do Star Wars influence though.
I do like there's so many wonderful little parallels, like the double jeopardy moment with the copter and Lois with it at the end, which I think even Lex refers to as double jeopardy at the end. Yeah. My other favorite is, and this is the first time I even picked up on this, is when you watch the destruction of Krypton, it mirrors the creation of the Fortress of Solitude. So the way that like all the things are like coming up out of the ground, right? That happens later when the fortress is created. And I love all those moments of kind of parallelism because it just shows they're really thinking through everything in this movie. Nothing is slapdash, except the end, which I still to this day fucking hate. I hate it. I got angry last night watching it again.
All right, well, let's go on to your next thing, Josh.
My next point, which I kind of said earlier, but I'll say this one. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. Everyone knows this, but it really sets the template for all superhero films that came after it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it really, really they I feel like Donner and Warner Brothers and the I can't say their names, the Sisklins, the producers, Silkins. Yeah, thank you. They had such a heavy load here, right? Because all people really knew was the Batman TV show. Like, how do you approach this? And again, I read somewhere that
Superman had the 50s show too. So
true. Yeah, okay, that's fair. But like I read somewhere that like the studio or the producers, someone kept wanting to introduce more camp into it, and Donner kept pushing back, like, no, like we're not doing that, right? And they knocked it out of the park so that every later superhero film looks back at this and thinks, how do we tell a superhero story in a way that feels as believable and human as Superman 78? And they take big swings, right? Yeah. To this day, I still hate the whole flying narration sequence, right? It's weird, it's cheesy, it doesn't work. I hate the end. I feel like the end makes no sense at all. So yeah, I mean, they take some very big swings, but it is 90% rock solid. So
nice.
I think about kind of harp on, maybe to even introduce my next point. which I have to read.
So did I.
So like the thing about the end, and I think it is kind of my point. There are a lot of like Superman has a lot of weird powers. So you can see like the Silver Age influence in this movie. So like modern day Superman would never reverse time by spinning around the globe a bunch of times. But I'm like, Silver Age Superman had all kinds of insane powers. Like, and there's other things between these two movies, this one and the Donner cut of the second one, where like he throws his shield, and as a modern Superman fan, you're like, what is this power? Like, there's like a lot of weird like telekinesis powers and stuff that pop up from the Kryptonians later and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, that's all Silver Age stuff where they just needed Deus Ex Machina to come in, and Superman all of a sudden has these weird powers that aren't necessarily canon. But I'm like, they're pulling all that stuff from Silver Age, which is really interesting. But I also do not like the time travel. I think it's the flaw in the movie because they make such a big setup throughout the movie about like how he's only allowed to do certain things.
Yeah.
And if you break those things, like I think it would have been cleaner if somehow the time reversal unleashed Zod and something. Like then
that would have made more sense. Yeah.
And it's a repercussion for what he did.
Right.
So because there's no repercussion, he saves Lois. In its own way, it makes sense because it proves how important Lois is to him. But at the same time, I'm like, there should be a repercussion for that.
Yeah.
Because there's the whole thing where his dad's like, he's in the sky and he's kind of doing this thing, and you hear his dad and like he's remembering all this stuff, and I'm like, there should have been a repercussion for that because he's telling you don't do it, he does it, and then everything's fine. So I'm like, what?
So I have something, and that leads into my other point, and the perfect segue, I think, because this whole film, and I had never really picked up on this because I don't think I've seen this in a while as a more mature adult, right? Well, I use mature and like big quotes, big brain over here. But yeah, like this is all about Superman versus death, right? Because it all starts and going back to Josh's structure of the movie and the book ending of these themes, like it begins with Jonathan passing away from a heart attack, which
is how you kill a Jonathan. You do not put him in don't put him in a tornado.
Tornado, no.
5 minutes to kill him.
A
heart attack.
Oh man, that was I forgot how sad that part was because he's just coming back from showing off to his friends, right? I love the bad running next to the train.
Yeah. It's
so goofy now. But it's still funny. I also love his the red shirt that he's wearing as a teenager. It reminds me a lot of the red jacket that they give him in Smallville.
Yeah.
Which is like that was the Superman I kind of grew up with, other than outside of the animated stuff. But yeah, there's this whole theme of like he even tells his mom, like, and writers, I'm sure they've explored this in the comics for years. Like, with all the stuff that I can do, I couldn't do anything to save my dad. And Grant Morrison, they also and they have a whole issue dedicated to this in their All-Star Superman, which I think will also might see something similar in James Gunn's film, because we know that All-Star Superman was a big influence on there, right? So yeah, anytime you see Paul Kent on the screen, like, beware, watch or beware. That may be the last time you see him on the screen. But then they have a conversation before that, like, like Jonathan tells him, like, you were sent here for a larger purpose. Whereas Jor-El had always given him like these guidelines of like what he should be doing. His father that raised him on Earth tells him, like, you're here to do even more magnificent things than what you think you're here to do. So then when we go back to the end and he has that same thing where like he has to face death once more, he makes a decision that he can do better things like his father told him. And then, you have that. It is a weird way to present it where you have like the floating Jor-El head, like, you can't mess with, you're not supposed to, this is forbidden or whatever. But then you have his father, like you have Jonathan reminding him, like, you're here for bigger, better things. And that's when I feel like that's the moment he decides to try to do that. I agree. Maybe there should have been a little bit more repercussions or something, but I didn't mind the reversing of time this time as much because I saw that parallel where it was like, it's almost as if your dad gave you permission to do that thing that you're not supposed to do ever.
Yeah.
So
Danny,
He said-
you.
he
Oh,
said
sorry.
the F word. No, I was just making a joke. Go for it.
Danny, you may have just convinced me that the ending is okay. And the reason why is because I'd never put together the fact that Clark never expresses this, but his father could have saved Krypton.
Yep.
And he didn't because the Kryptonian said, don't. Like, we don't believe you, you're wrong. So what did he do? He saved one person, his son. And at the end of the film, Clark decides to save, because he promises Miss Tessmacher, I'm going to go save your mom first in Hoboken or whatever, right? And
you got to save New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly. All the New Jersey people were like, "Fuck! Finally, yay!" But he saves all the people, and in doing so, loses Lois. Right. Yeah. So then he decides, "I'm going to do what my father did and go back and save one person." So, God damn it, you may have changed my mind on this. Good job.
And I just love that. That's what makes this film great too. It's the rewatchability of like a lot of these things that you don't really. I don't. When I'm watching this as a kid, like I don't think about that stuff. Like, yeah. Those are not the things that are stuck in my memory, but I think now going forward after this rewatch, which I'm very glad that we did, those are the things that I'm gonna cling on to more because I'm in a different stage in life, right? And we receive things differently. So, yeah, that was great. I think that and Reeves, oh man, this might lead us into your third thing, but his performance during all that, like when he finds Lois, when he's kind of having his, like listening to both his dads as he flies, and then when he finally rescues Lois and they kind of have their little heart to heart before Jimmy shows up. Like it's all great. It's just Reeves is such a fantastic Superman.
It took me a long time to come around. Look, I'll be totally honest, to come around to Reeves, because I always felt like Reeves, when I was a kid, I felt like Reeves was campy. And, seeing the dichotomy between him as Clark and him as Superman, like it didn't click with me as a kid. Yeah. The more I watch him in the role, the more I realize he just is amazing. Like he is fantastic. He is really, really good. And I think what it took was, for me at least, growing up and realizing all the different roles we have to play as adults. Like as a kid, you don't get that. You're just a kid, right? Yeah. But as an adult, seeing that and then watching him perform all that, it really came through. So,
and even like, I think one of the things that maybe because we're so used to the Superman being so like big and beefy, like Henry Cavill is massive and David Cornsweet's also pretty big. Brandon Routh was never that. But he's also pretty tall and imposing. But the way that Reeves is shot when he's Superman, especially when you first see him, like he's shot from a low angle. He's still a pretty tall and impulsive man, and he's very, very handsome as well. So like especially when he's Superman, which I love the fact that you can't, like, they really change his appearance and his performance changes when he from going to Clark to, which even leads to that moment at the end when Lois is like, wait a minute, Clark's never around when Superman is here or whatever. Like, and they're like, no, that's the craziest idea in the world, right?
There's
you truly believe that. Not only do you believe that a man will fly, but you can also believe that this guy can be two different people and nobody knows about it.
I mean, Clark parts his hair on this side, but Superman parts his hair on this side. Oh, yeah. So they clearly can't be the same person. I'll be right back.
The thing is that he's also like, I like watching like the movie reactors watch to these movies like these, because it's hard for me to sit down and watch Superman and come up with new critiques because I've seen it so many times. It's hard for me to step back and look at it from fresh eyes. So it's fun to watch like reactors react to things and I'm like, oh, I've not thought about that kind of thing. And one of the things that a reactor I watched was like, he's so charming as Superman. He makes you forget about Clark Kent, honestly, because Clark Kent is such a, he's got the whinier voice. He stutters a little bit more. He does the slumped shoulders and kind of, he does all that stuff to protect his identity. But then as Superman, not only is he standing up taller and he's, speaking more intently, but he's just more charming. Like, I think it's just like, as you're seeing Superman, you're like, that's all I'm focused in on, and you look over at Clark Kent, and you're like, Superman.
I think also the thing about the glasses, I feel like it's difficult for a person to see the true color of your eyes when you're wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at Superman, Christopher Reeves, like his blue eyes are just like, front and center.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was great. I love when he shows up in the
one
boat.
of us could be Superman.
Yeah, right.
Not me.
There's a whole multiverse of Superman. Don't you worry.
I do also like to again applaud his performance. His Superman is charming and confident, but not cocky. Yeah. And quite honestly, like, again, I don't think this is Cavill's fault, but that's the moment where I kind of lost him in Man of Steel, is that moment where Lois is interviewing him the first time, and she asks about the symbol in his chest, and he kind of like, he says it stands for hope, but the smirk on his face and the way that he says it, he comes across as like, you fucking idiot. It's hope, like it doesn't hit right. And Reeves never crosses that line. He's always charming and confident, but never rude.
I read that as he's flirting with Lois, and one of the things that Lois is attracted to is like being like somebody who's intellectual and like,
yeah,
no, let me tell you more about this, right? Let me tell you more about my culture. That's the way I read that, because then that's
fair. Yeah, I'm
gonna make you like Man of Steel by the time we get through the whole.
Listen,
I will revisit it.
That interaction has nothing on. Do you like pink? Yes, I like pink very much.
Oh my God, I love that, particularly because he realizes that she's obviously flirting with him. He's flirting back, but there's that pause, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you." Like, it was just, it's so good. It's so good. No notes, and then that whole sequence is ruined by the poem. It just bugs the shit out of me. It just really bugs me. Especially because I read originally she was supposed to sing it, and Donna was like, no singing. You can recite it, but no singing.
That's so funny. I think we've covered all our points, but I know there's a little bit of like residual stuff, extra thoughts as we'll call them, I guess. So let's go over that, and then we'll kind of come to a conclusion on this film. So John, why don't you lead us off, and I think Jeff and I can kind of jump in and out of your stuff.
Oh yeah.
So,
oh, me? Yeah.
You can lead this part of it, since you have a big laundry list, and that that'll probably hit a bunch of the stuff that.
I mean, I've said some of this before, but one thing I haven't said, which I think is kind of like a bigger point, is I had never really put together. Like, again, I said how much this movie becomes a template for later superhero films. I had not put together how much this movie also creates a lot of what we think of as just canonical Superman stuff, right? Glenn Ford as Jonathan Kent sets the template for every other Jonathan Kent performance afterward. The ship being buried in the barn, how much did that come up in Smallville, right? The S being a family emblem, that's established in this movie, right? Like, all this stuff is established in this film.
Sorry to interrupt, but I do feel like all the other houses on Krypton designs were very, very lazily put together.
Yeah, they really were. You're right.
Because now in the comics, if you see them now, like, feel like they take a little bit more time to like make it kind of make sense. They actually have the whole Kryptonian alphabet and stuff, which I'm sure they didn't have back then. But yeah, they all kind of look very goofy. And then it's like, well, Superman's is very clearly like an S. Everything else doesn't really have a shape or form.
But this one looks like a little teapot. This one, like, they're all weird. Yeah, little.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I am going to steal one of your points, kind of, because I also wrote it down, because I meant to pull the clip when Superman rescues the cat. Because the moment following that is hilarious and also a little dark.
Yes.
The little girl goes back inside and she tells her mom, like, a man just flew down from the sky and rescued my cat, something like that. And the mom goes like, "What have I told you about lying?" And then you hear an audible slap. I rewound that scene. I was like, did I just did the little girl just get slapped for the
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It's the 1970s. There's always a little light child abuse.
So when I was talking about people watching it for the first time, because they talk about how he rescues the cat, he gives it to the girl, and then she says something like kind of chastising the cat, and then Superman's like, "Well, you can't fault the cat for He's like, "No, be cool about it." And then so she goes inside and like tells her mom, "I saw a man fly," and then she gets hit. And somebody that was watching was like, "Oh, that's the cycle of violence." Like he's commenting on the cycle of violence.
Oh God!
Mom is, and so the kid is like
Yep.
angry with the cat, and the cat's up in the tree, kind of thing. So he's like, "That's just the familial cycle."
Wow, that's man. That takes an otherwise light moment and really deconstructs it.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting.
Can I tell you the other thing that caught my attention on this viewing is after they send Zod and Ursa and all of them to the Phantom Zone, then they pivot to Krypton's about to explode, and the Science Council is like, "We don't believe you, Jonathan, and we're going to arrest you if you go around telling people this. You need to shut up about this." And it was like, this feels so much like modern day America, like that kind of like response to like, "Hey, I'm telling you something bad is about to happen." And then all the people in charge are like, "Oh, we don't care. Don't tell anybody. If you do, we're going to arrest you." And I'm like, oh, that's really, that's woke for today, kind of thing.
We got Carlos in the chat. My buddy Carlos. My girlfriend's never seen the OG Superman movies. I need to have watch. I guess they're going to watch them. We did this exercise for Aliens before we saw the new ones. I need to do the same.
That's great. Yeah.
I mean, at least the first two. I don't know if you want to delve into them.
Oh God, yeah, 3.
I don't know if you want to delve into 3 or 4.
Yeah.
At least the first two. Maybe even try to find the Donner cut so you can see.
I would honestly say just watch the original and then watch the Donner cut. I feel like they're much more tightly unified.
Yeah.
I would just share with you a couple of just the more stupid random thoughts I had. Sure. First off, I love the way that Brando says Krypton. It's like in the way old-timey people say robot.
I forget how much of a presence Brando has on screen. Like even with the goofy white hair and the shiny outfit, which I love tonally how it changes, right? When he's in the chamber, when they're like when he's carrying out the council's will. Put these people in jail. Like it was, he's wearing the dark clothes, whatever, and just great performances by the Zod and Ursa and the other guy. Like they're just, I mean, fantastic. I wanted to watch the second one right away, but I was like, I don't want to get stuff mingled. But yeah, Brando, and then it flips on him. They're like, now that they've used him to do their dirty work. Which is, I think Man of Steel touches a little bit on that as well, where like Zod gives him the option to like, be like, let's do this together. But I think Man of Steel focuses more on them being friends, kind of coming up on Krypton as they in their respective roles. So, let's see, Carlos, give me the order of Superman movies that you watch with her. I want to do the ones with Cavill since she hasn't in it. I would say watch Superman 1, then Superman 2, the Donner cut, which is the original intent of the how these movies were supposed to play out. Then I would say Superman Returns.
Yeah,
I throw that in there, right? The Brandon Routh.
Yep.
And then just Men of Steel. I don't think you need to go. I mean, feel free to keep going with that with the universe, but but I would say Men of Steel. I think those 4 will give you the best representation of Superman. And if you got a month of not watching anything, just throw in Smallville. And just watch all 10 seasons of it.
And you should absolutely watch Superman versus the Mole Men. I think that's just a classic that's unheralded. I'm kidding. Please don't.
In between, throw some of those the Fleischer animation.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Yeah, actually, I would highly recommend before watching each of those movies, take 7 minutes, like you're in an old classic movie theater, and watch one of the Fleischer shorts. Just pick one at random.
I love the one that he's fighting that alien thing that keeps shooting beams at it, and it just keeps punching the light.
Is that the mechanical monster?
Yeah, I think so.
The big robot, that turned from planes.
We got a few more minutes here. So what else? What else do we have? before we get to our conclusion, Josh?
Oh, let's see. Hang on. I do want to give props. I know Brando got a lot of shit afterwards for like not learning his lines and stuff. He's really good in this. I mean,
I wouldn't be able to tell that he didn't know.
Yeah, same. I did wonder if they bothered to baby-proof the crystal ship they had that baby actor in, because it looks sharp as hell, and they're just letting that kid touch everything.
I was gonna say, for everybody who's like complaining about how lighthearted Superman is, and like they're like, we want a dark Superman movie, blah 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 blah. I'm like, this is the only Superman movie that has full frontal nudity.
That is true, yeah,
and possibly like pornographic. Like, I'm a little like I'm against like editing old movies, but I'm like, this one I feel like you could probably edit that little kid out, like not edit him out, but like cover him up. Like, I don't, you know.
They do later. Considering what happened in Fort Worth at the Modern with the Sally Mann photos, when that scene happened, I just expected the authorities to burst through my door and like take my hard drive. So
I'm shocked that it's still out there. Honestly, I'm a little shocked that it's still out there.
Yeah,
not that I'm like prudish or anything like that. I'm just like, because of the society that we live in.
Right.
That's why I'm like.
I will say one of the other things I loved, which when we talk about the effects, is when the also, I don't know how long that baby was in the ship, because when he got there, he was a full-on toddler when he got here.
Yeah, true.
But I love that when he picks up the truck, you can see how they do it, where they're like probably just having the kid hold on to the truck, because when he lifts it, he's on his tippy toes.
He's on his tippy toes. I love it.
I mean, that's not how you carry things. And maybe Superman does, but like, like
it's almost like they
lifted it
too high, and he had to
like it's a little bit too high for the kid, which is probably maybe for safety too, like maybe so he doesn't bump himself. I don't know, but that was very cute. Also, where were the Kens going? Because they were dressed really nicely.
They were
for just or unless that's just how you dress in on a Sunday. Maybe they were their Sunday's best. They maybe coming back from church or something. That's what I was thinking. Like they were either going to church or coming back from church, or maybe come from going into town. Like that, you just kind of dress up back then.
I do love how quickly Ma Kent is like, yeah, we're keeping him. Like it's like minutes. I do also want to.
I also feel like in the '60s you could do that. You could be like, oh, we found this baby. We'll just keep it, like whatever.
True, but what I find so funny is in the original comic, they put him in an orphanage, so the kids don't keep him in the original origin story.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah, I do also want to point out my other favorite thing is, because again, there are touches like the phone booth where it's very clear they're having to take some of the iconic stuff from the 30s and 40s and modernize it. For some reason, it was the moment where Clark gets denied going into the elevator, and he's holding his hat. That it dawned on me that the Kentmen are hatmen, because they're the only ones in the movie wearing hats, right? But of course, the idea was Clark Kent has to wear a hat. He's always worn a hat. I mean, we've seen the old TV show. He wears hats.
Reporters wear hats. That's a reported thing.
But only Clark. No, I'll go back and rewatch it. I don't feel like anybody else.
No, I'm just saying, like in the archetype of reporters, like they wear hats. Not in the movie. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
in
okay.
The bullpen, he's the only. I mean, he's the only one wearing a coat too.
Yeah,
in the bullpen, like everybody else is just like clacking away.
Also, the hat is definitely old school. Like
old school reporter. The stories that Lois is going after are so different than the stories that Clark is assigned later on.
Right.
They're all about, like, Lois is all about like violence and conflict and turmoil, and Clark is just like really, really digging in the research. Right. I find that really funny, because he was supposed to be the city walk. What do they call him? City walk reporter or something like that.
Oh yeah,
So.
City beat.
I like how her thing, like throughout all of media, Lois Lane's thing is she cannot spell. Like, it's carried over like everything. Like that.
Although, did they have to choose rapist as one of the words for her to misspell?
Right.
There's so many words they could have picked for that story.
He does misspell Brazier later.
Rapist and massacre.
Yeah. There's only one being rapist, Lois. Come on now, we all know that.
All right, so just very quick, my few last points from this. First off, how many pilots does it take to fly Air Force One? Because there are like 7 people in that cockpit. It is a wild number of pilots. 2, why do all the military men have transatlantic accents? Did you notice that? They all talk like that from the 1940s. And I'm like, what is happening here? This is so weird.
Before they lightly assault a woman that's just been in an accident.
Yeah, exactly. But here's my final takeaway that really, I don't know why my brain finally put this together rewatching this last night. Only 11 years difference between this movie and Burton's Batman. That's it. 11 years.
That's wild.
That is wild to think about how far superhero movies come. I mean, they kind of bookend a period, you know? So...
Yeah, and I can't imagine Superman being shot in a studio like fully.
Yeah,
there's no way the movie works.
No,
I mean I know the Krypton stuff was probably like in some kind of warehouse or whatever, but everything else. So
as well, yeah.
All right, Jeff, do you have anything else to close out?
Yeah, at the very end of the movie, when he flies Lex Luthor into prison,
the
warden is like, "Thank you, Superman," and Superman's like, "No, don't thank me. We're all on the same team." That's when I was like, "Hey, Cap."
Yeah.
And now we're getting canceled.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, like I'm gonna ask you guys for your final ratings for Letterboxd, but I gave this movie 4 stars, and what I just put on my review was the quote, like Superman saying, "I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way." And then Lois laughs and says, "You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country."
Yeah. I mean, this is post Watergate. So,
yeah. Speaking of Watergate, watch Duster on HBO Max. But yeah, final ratings on Superman for you guys.
I gave it 4.5 stars. Again, some of the big swings and misses knock it down 0.5 star, but otherwise it's just, I mean, it lifts so much higher above its weight, and succeeds. So,
yeah, it's definitely stood the test of time, and I think it will continue as more and more, like, comic book movies are the thing now. And it is still ranks up at one of the top ones. And yes, it might be an age thing, but I'm going to give it a 4.5 stars. But I do think that again, even as I watch other people, younger people reacting to it, like on their YouTube channels, like it sticks with them too. So like they all go into thinking it's hokey and whatever, but then they all come out of it loving Christopher Reeve. So.
I think when a movie is well done, no matter what era it's from, like it might have some flaws or maybe things that don't age well, or things that just maybe don't agree with your aesthetic now from more modern films, but like a good movie will stand with that. So, All right, well, let us know if you're watching this live or later on in the rewatch. Let us know in the comments. Let us know your favorite parts of this movie. Let us know your rating. I'm very excited. I'm very glad we did this today. We have a bit of a shorter show, just because I have to head out. But I think I talked to Jeff and Josh. You're welcome to join us tomorrow. We might hop on a quick stream just to go over our comics for the week.
Okay.
And then we'll see. I don't know if we'll have a show next week, because there's some wrestling going on in town, and I might be attending some events. So just stay tuned for that. But I should be watching. Josh, do you know when you might be watching Superman? Do you have plans for that?
I have not yet. I was actually just sitting here thinking I should probably hop on and see if I can get.
Yeah, because I will be,
and FF.
I will be going to. Well, hopefully I can. I got tickets for that Prime screening on Tuesday night. So I should be able to watch it then. And then I was telling Jeff that I want to. I'll probably end up watching it again over the weekend. And then Jeff, you mentioned Thursday, right? Maybe.
Yeah, I got a ticket for Thursday.
So yeah, I'm very excited. Really, they've done a lot of really cool things in the marketing and the people, just like the cast doing interviews, and I'm very excited for this as the summer blockbuster continues. Who's got Superman on their roster? Do you remember on our picks?
It wasn't me. I've got FF.
Okay. I wonder. Maybe I have Superman. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and check.
I've got 2 duds so far: Megan 2 and Jurassic World.
Well, it's just the first week. Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Because I've been hearing a lot of
but
very good things from Jurassic World, like where audiences are just really enjoying it. I didn't enjoy the movie as much as other people, but I think it's fine. But I think a lot of people are really enjoying the film, so that might.
I hope it gets me. I'm sad about Megan too.
We'll see.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
later.
we might have to do a check-in on our numbers at the end of the summer.
Yeah,
that's going to cover a lot of our films.
And the big returns, you know.
Yeah, Josh's wild picks.
All my weird indie picks.
So.
Hey, I'm just holding out hope. One of them is like an Oscar nom, and then there's that like rush at the end, you know, for people to go see it. So
good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Carlos, thanks for being on the chat.
Thanks
for the order. So make sure let us know what you and Sarah think of that stuff. If you guys do a rewatch, and we'll catch you next time. And like I said, Jeff and I are probably hopping on at some point tomorrow morning to go over our comics.
Okay.
Read Captain America #1 if you haven't. Josh,
I do. I have it right here.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited about it.
I'm okay. Yeah, we definitely want to chat about that whenever we next talk.
Okay.
And I'll be going because I'm going to Common Grounds right now, but I'll probably be stopping at Zeus because it's right next door.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone, and look up. That's the new Superman thing. Look up.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
The most important thing in life will always be
Hey, Bebo.
Twitter loves you.
Simon Center, get the fuck out.